going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting, and we're back with Ladies Night and Holli Coulman. How you doing tonight, Holli?
Hey, I'm doing good. Hey, Dan.
Awesome, and we're going to be talking about furloughs tonight and how this really affects people. And I'm going to let you talk about that. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to join in this room here. So it's still loading. I can never tell when it's live or not. It always takes Zoom a few minutes.
Going on YouTube?
Oh.
RDAP Dan here.
Why is that singing to me? So go ahead, Holli. Start talking to people. I'll get this thing situated here.
Everybody wants to know about
I can never tell when it's live or
qualifying for furloughs and how does one get a furlough once you're incarcerated. So the first and foremost thing, and Dan, you and I were talking about this, it's what status that you are when you are at your camp. And you should be at something called community status. And there's also something called out status, which you should not be. A lot of facilities are using the out status to control who, actually, they're not giving anybody, if you're on out status, a furlough. So first and foremost, you're supposed to be something set at community. And people are like, well, how do I know and how can I do that? It's when you meet with your case manager / or counselor, you're going to be giving your paperwork, and on it, it's going to tell you, usually in the upper right-hand corner on the BOP on your updates, it's going to tell you what your status is. So that's first and foremost. If you happen to notice that it's out, anybody that's under 10 years and under that's at the camp level status, you should be on community status. Out status will not let you go on a furlough. So that's number one, community status. The second part about this is if you're going to be able to be eligible for a furlough if you're within 2 years of your release. And that's so 24 months. And what you can qualify for is an emergency furlough or a routine day furlough. And that means there are certain restrictions, and we can get into that in a minute. But you could go to, let's say there's a funeral, but it's going to be in a 100-mile radius of the prison. It can't be further than that. And there will be restrictions and all these different rules that you'll have to, but 2 years. So that's for an emergency and a routine furlough. 18 months or less, you can qualify for an emergency furlough, a routine day furlough, and an overnight furlough. But again, it's within the commuting distance of the prison. So it's usually 100-mile radius, and there are certain restrictions that apply. If you get down to 1 year or less, you qualify for an emergency furlough, a routine day furlough, and up to an overnight. And this can be beyond the prison 100-mile radius. But again, it's that 1 day. How are you going to get out and back? It's very difficult. So it's hard. It's doable, but it's hard. If you have any type of infractions while you're in a 100 or 200 series shot or anything on your record, you're not going to qualify for a furlough. I didn't know if you knew that, Dan.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that people would get shots for? What would give you a 100 or 200 series shot?
Blogging from prison. Some serious infractions. We're not talking about contraband here, like stealing a pepper or something from food service or something from the dining hall. These are serious infractions, 100 and 200 levels. So yeah, you have to do something really bad. You can get a 200 series for fighting. You can get a 100 series for fighting. So any 100 or 200 series, you're not going to be qualified. If you don't enroll in the financial responsibility program, you're not eligible for a furlough. Most people, you have to enroll, but there are some people who refuse to do so, and they take things away like commissary. You're not able to shop, you're not able to do. But if you don't enroll in the FRP, you're not going to qualify. If you withdraw from GED class, let's say you are required to take GED, but you refuse to do so, you're not going to qualify for a furlough. Those are usually the main ones that the wardens typically, just right off the bat are going to say no.
So when you say it's on your paperwork is what they can look at, is this going to be on like the sentencing computation or your J&C? Which paperwork is this typically going to be on?
So this is going to be your paperwork when you first meet with your case manager at the camp, and it's going to give you a series of where you're at with your programming, how many classes that you need to take. This is just the general paperwork that they set up to give you. And each time you meet with your case manager, they update it with the programs that you've taken. It's kind of like just a report card.
Okay.
But it's very important in the upper right-hand corner of that paperwork. And again, it's very standard. It's going to say what your status is.
So rule of thumb, almost anybody going into a camp with 10 years left on their sentence should be considered or should already be at community custody.
Right.
And you were saying at your prison, they labeled everybody as the opposite, kind of by default.
They did. The entire time that I was at Victorville, they had the women on out status. That means nobody was going on furloughs. They had a change in warden, and the new warden came in, and of course they have criteria that their performance is based on. They're supposed to be offering furloughs. They're supposed to be doing these things. And so there was a big spotlight put on it. And so things changed after I left. I do know at Bryan, Texas right now, I do have somebody that is there and communicating with, and they're doing this. They're pulling the same thing. They're doing exactly the same thing.
So they're putting them through it, and they're not classifying them properly. And I know as prison consultants, one of the things that we can do to help our clients is make sure that they're aware of this before they go to prison. So they know when they review their paperwork to see what their classification is. But and a lot of the times, as you explained, we do have the ability to build relationships with the case managers as prison consultants to help build this rapport and make sure that some of the inmates' rights aren't being, even though it is a violation, in my opinion. I don't know if the Bureau of Prisons is going to view it as a violation, but I think if it's not brought to their attention, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. So I think we do have the ability to help bring this to light.
Right, and a little visibility on it. There were women that had deaths in the family that qualified to be on community status to be able to go to the funerals, and nothing, zero. Once you do qualify, you have to put an application in. Applications are supposed to be available through your case manager. You turn them in, they go to the warden, and they're going to take a look again. If you have any 100, 200 series shots, where you're at with your time for release, they're going to want to know what the circumstance or occasion is. They're going to want to know who's going to be picking you up. They have to approve that person. It's just like releasing. They're going to need to know the vehicle, the license plate. They're going to need an obituary. They're going to need everything. You're going to have to call, actually, even from some point, either at the church or at the service, and check in where you're at. When you come back, it's just almost like being at the halfway house. You're going to be going through a breathalyzer. You're going to be going through a drug test. You're going to be a pregnancy test, because that one does come back. They're going to be doing just a whole new strip down search, everything. So be prepared for that when you come back. So there's certain criteria.
So for somebody that doesn't have that classification, that should have community custody classification, that doesn't have it, what are some steps that we can either assist them in taking, or some steps that they can take on their own once in prison to get this situation fixed, if there is any?
So there is. You can put in your BP forms, and I'm sure you've talked about this in the past on how to put in. You want to put in why the policy, you should qualify, again, the program statement that you qualify for this, and you just have to go all the way up to the change, all the way up to the regional. We can help put together paperwork and those types of forms, and put that conversation on paper for you to have with your case manager.
Have you seen people go through this before and get it rectified?
Yes.
Yes, I'm very tired, Tear Talk. I don't mean to keep yawning. I'm trying to switch the camera angle, so every time I yawn, I'm putting the camera on Holly, but I screwed up just now. Took the camera off Holly, put the camera on my giant noggin and did a giant yawn. I apologize, guys. It's a long day. Go ahead, Holly. Explain that. I got everybody laughing at me now. Son of a bitch. There goes my viewership.
So where were we at? We were at with what?
Where you were going to explain to people that if you've seen individuals fight this and have it overturned and be able to do what they're supposed to be able to do.
So I will give you an example. My bunkie was able, when I left, she was there for 4 years. And she had another 18 months to do. And there was a death in her family. And we helped prepare going through the case manager to get her community to community status. Helped her write the forms, put it in, did go to regional, they changed her status, and she was able to go. But we started working way before the funeral happened because this person was not in great health and she was within a 100-mile radius. So we put together that plan to go up to regional to get her approved.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds, because where I was at a low security. So there was no furloughs going from there, but we had a couple of guys that came from Miami. Are there certain camps that are more prone to do furloughs, or certain prisons that are more prone to do furloughs over other prisons?
Now I'm hearing, again, it's just through the grapevine. I'm hearing places like Dublin for women. Victorville now has a warden in place that she's adhering to this policy. I'm hearing Alderson, Danbury, and Ellisville.
That's quite a few. There's not that many women's camps to begin with, so that's quite a few. So I guess as prison consultants, our job should be to make sure when they get there to have them review their paperwork and see where they're at on there. We've teamed up with a couple of people. You saw Tom, what's Tom's last name? His name just jumped out of my head. He was on here a couple of weeks ago. He's got the company called Lisa that sends out inmate newsletters. Tom Root. He was an attorney, went to prison. Now he advocates for attorneys' rights, and he is amazing at he does a lot of the stuff out of his own pocket, motions, whatnot. I know he's very, very well understood when it comes to the furloughs and the programs, helping inmates with their BP forms. So if this is something that somebody does need assistance with, because honestly, when you're in there, you have very, very limited access to what's legit and what's not. You're relying on hearsay from other inmates. And sometimes you might have, I've seen some of these inmates just with more knowledge than you could imagine, spending all of their time in the law library. But this is something that we want to start offering people. And this is why we've asked you to join the team, Holly, because you have a lot of this knowledge as well from things that you've gone through. And people like Rebecca, women that are going to prison, I can tell them till I'm blue in the face what to expect, but being able to hear it directly from you, a female that spent time in the female facility, same thing with you, Jessica Kent, individuals that did time as a woman in prison, you can give an actual perspective that I can only give hearsay on. So that's why we want Holly to join us, guys. People
don't think about furloughs. This is another kind of one of those siloed things. They don't think about it. But if you have a loved one that's not doing well, if you have the ability, this is something that should be, if you qualify for, that it would be nice to see in your family. It's not just restricted to emergency. If you qualify, you could go out for a day or even overnight and be able to spend with your family. So it's something that people need to think about, and it starts with that status.
And if you guys do go on furloughs, be real, real careful, because read all the fine print. We had a guy that went on a furlough. He was allowed to, he didn't have to stay home. It was a 12 or 24-hour furlough. He could pretty much go anywhere he wanted within a certain radius. He had his own insurance. He wasn't feeling well. So while he was on his furlough, he thought, why not go to he went to his own doctor, got a prescription for something, went back to prison when he was supposed to, brought the prescription with him, showed that he had a prescription, and they violated him for going to see a doctor, because when you're in the care of the Bureau of Prisons, you can't use your own doctor. They have to take care of all of that. So they violated him, sent him from the camp to a low security, and, basically pulled out his,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Patricia Adams just gave us a $10 donation. Patricia Adams, you get a giant high five.
Yay.
We're gonna donate that to Holly. We're gonna call that the Holly Fund today.
Holly,
Because we appreciate you coming on. Holly doesn't get, Holly's doing this out of the kindness of her heart. So guys, I appreciate that, Patricia. And this will, yeah, it's awesome.
Some other things that people, when you're on a furlough, and I told you there are some restrictions, it's everything from you can't get married, and it literally says you can't go out and get married. You can't open a checking account. It's just like when you're furloughing actually to your halfway house. You can't open a checking account. You can't get married. You can't go gambling. You can't do drugs. You can't do alcohol. Can't go to the doctor. Can't have, have a prescription.
What about, can you get pregnant?
Well, that happens. It can happen, but guess what's going to happen to you on the backside? Get good times gone. Everything pretty much gone. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be really bad.
So make sure you wrap it up. We don't want any issues here, guys.
Because they're going to give you a pregnancy test when you come back. They will.
They do?
Yeah, they do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
It's pretty serious. That's some pretty serious stuff. I want to, real quick, we have a question in here. San Judas, he's asking about, completely off topic question. Let me answer your question real quick because I forget. He's asking about his sentence. If he gets sentenced to 31 months, he wants to know how much time he'll serve on his 31-month sentence. And San Judas, I'm assuming, I think you told CJ you might be doing RDAP. So here's how you do the math on that real quick, guys. So you take your 31, which is your sentence. You want to minus your good time first. So times 0.85. That leaves you with 26 and a half months. In your case, you're only going to qualify for 9 months off for RDAP because you're between 31 and 37 months. So -9 for RDAP. They have to give you a minimum of 4 months halfway house. So -4 months halfway house. So you'd be looking at about anywhere between 10 and 13 months. If they give you more halfway house, you're looking at 10 months. If they only give you the 4 months, 13 months is your best case scenario. There you go. Go ahead, Holly. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I did 13 months at the camp, so I did.
I think that's what we all did, 13 months.
Yeah, 13 months with no RDAP, but.
Well, mine was with RDAP for sure. I needed the RDAP. I was a 41-month sentence or 42-month sentence, so I needed the RDAP. So what are some other, furloughs? Those questions come up so often, but I very rarely see anybody get the furlough. And I'm assuming it's because of what you just said. They misclassify you.
They control it with that. It's kind of a three-pronged thing. 1, lazy. 2, it's paperwork. And 3, they don't want to take the responsibility of having an inmate out of their facility.
Now, is there such thing as like a furlough with an escort, or is it a furlough, you're on your own, you come back on your own?
You're on your own. Yeah. You're set down and you're given the conditions to sign off on, like I was going through. You can't gamble, drink, etc. You go through that. And then they're going to monitor your whole progress. They're going to monitor who comes get you, make sure it's the car, the license plate, got to call in, all of that.
So very similar to when you're in the halfway house and you go on home passes, social passes, where your phone rings, make sure you answer it, be where you're supposed to be, don't do anything crazy. And I think it's really important to really look at the fine print, what you can and can't do. You can't drink alcohol. You can't use drugs. They're going to test you for all of these things the minute you come back. Don't get pregnant. I guess you said no going to the bars, no going to the casinos.
No, I think again, people need to know that it's there. It's a privilege, and it's something that you qualify for, and to know that you can put in for one as long as you have the right status. It could come up again where you weigh the odds and say, I'd rather see my family, and I can go through a little bit of pain on the backside.
So we got a question from Patricia Adams. Hi guys, first thanks for doing this. I leave for 5 months to Danbury on Monday. My granddaughter has her first communion in May, is it possible to get a furlough on this?
Being a newbie, it's not impossible. It's going to be hard because they're going to look at people who are, and this is just from me, my experience. They're going to look at people who've done more time.
Right.
So.
And you know, it's very, on a 5-month sentence, Patricia, it's very possible to get 30 to 60 days of halfway house. Just because you have a short sentence, you're not going to get any good time on that sentence. You'll serve 100% of basically, you know, the 5 months, but you can go to a halfway house. So if you got your last 2 months, you're going in on what's Monday? Monday's, so you'd be February, March, April, May, June. So you'd be getting out in June. So February, March, April, May. It's possible. It's possible you could pull some halfway house. I would say reach out to us. We've been really, really successful in getting clients with short sentences, additional halfway house or halfway house period. If you got a short sentence and you get 30 to 60 days halfway house, you're doing pretty good.
Where, you know, person had 8 months and got 2 months halfway house. So
yep.
It was 2 months. So it is.
So definitely give us a call, Patricia. I'm going to be leaving on the 29th. I'm going to New York City on the 29th. That's my plan for tomorrow, Dan. Awesome, Patricia. Patricia, shoot CJ an email if you can, and he'll send you a link so you can put yourself on my calendar, because I know tomorrow is pretty busy. So you may want to jump on that calendar so I can fit you in for, you know, give you a good solid hour of time. CJ's posting his email in there now for you right now. So if you shoot him an email, he'll send you over a link to my calendar. But you know, that's it. Preparation is really the key for all of this, because the problem is most people, they find out they can't get their furlough when they need it. They find out at that moment, like, oh shit, somebody just died. I need to go to a funeral. In a week from now, you got the wrong custody, your paperwork's wrong. You didn't do any of these things that you should have been looking at ahead of time. So if a furlough is something that you think you're going to be interested in, and there's going to be a need for it, like what you're saying, a communion, definitely let us work with you to make sure that you can have the best possible chance of having your case manager updating your paperwork, because according to Holli, it's easier to misclassify you and just put you as out custody. And we don't want to just fall between the cracks. You know, if they're going to screw you, at least let them screw you to your face and tell you they're going to do the wrong thing, instead of just making it look like an oops.
Yeah.
You guys got any more questions for Holli? We're trying to keep these live. She's got a bunch of other topics she wants to talk about, but I told her to zip it until next week, because we want to keep you guys entertained. And
we're going to have entertainment next week. I'm going to have a couple people on.
Who's going to be on next week? We'll have to get this set up and organized, because you might be running the show by yourself, depending where I'm at.
A whole lot of things. So
who are you going to have on? Who are you bringing to join us?
I'm bringing in, let's see, Rhonda Volker, a friend of mine, Maggie Silvis, a friend of mine.
Is this going to be in person, or are they going to join us?
They're going to join us via either all over the country.
Okay.
So we've got some great stories.
We're going to hear some prison stories.
From prison stories.
Seriously, I always pictured women's prison like just a bunch of pillow fights. That's what went through my mind. It's like, you guys just run around in pillow fights and like your undergarments. I mean, what goes on in the female prison?
Crochet you to death, you know, knit you to death.
There is a lot of crocheting, even in the men's prison. There was a lot of guys that were crocheting in prison.
Yeah, I didn't do so well on
that. Crocheting wasn't your hobby, huh?
Great stories, yeah. They've some of the women that will be on, they served, you know, 5 years and longer. And
what was Rebecca asking? No, Rebecca said, can you tell me now? I'm leaving in the AM. I missed your question, Rebecca.
I think she's asking like what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, Rebecca, if you want to re-ask that question, go ahead. Rebecca's leaving. Rebecca was the one, you spoke to Rebecca, didn't you, Holli?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. Rebecca was supposed to be remanded a few days ago, and the judge gave her a little bit extra time. So it wasn't as much time as she was hoping for, but Rebecca starts her journey tomorrow, guys. So everybody give Rebecca a great send off here. This is going to be Rebecca Crow's last time joining us for a period of time. She's looking at 10 years, guys. She hasn't been sentenced yet. The judge she has does not allow her to stay out for self-surrendering. So they're remanding her tomorrow into county jail. So she's going to have a rough couple of months, but the best thing I can say is, like, you know, it sucks. There's no way around it. However, anybody that's been to a camp or a low security prison knows that it's not the end of the world. But when you're comparing it to your house, hanging out on your couch, going to a prison camp, it's a downgrade. But when you go to a prison camp from county jail, it's like going from Motel 6 to the Hilton. So that's what I'm trying to depart on Rebecca, to give her some insight that it's going to get better once she gets to prison.
She will. It would be much better. And I've told her that as well.
So yeah, guys. So next week we'll figure it out, because I won't be here. So Holly, unless I have access wherever I'm in New York in the hotel or whatever. If I do, then if not, you think you can run it? You can run the show.
We can take it over.
Holly's gonna kick RDAP Dan to the curb. This is gonna be the Holli Coulman show.
It's gonna be all ladies' night, true ladies' night.
Yeah, CJ will be here. So if CJ needs to facilitate, at least get it started, log in and all that stuff, then you can just run it. The other thing she was going to talk about. Oh, the other thing she was going to talk about, Rebecca, it was more of just entertainment type stuff. She's going to be bringing in some of her friends that she did prison time with, just having some prison stories. So you'll have to wait and see that on the replay in about 10 years. Now I'll send you a transcript, Rebecca, and you're not going to do the whole 10 years because we're going to be working with you to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, guys, that's really all I got. Holly, you want to leave them with anything?
I think just stay tuned for next week, and thanks for having me back on.
Sounds good. All right, guys, I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Ladies' Night every Wednesday. Make sure you check in next Wednesday. People helping people, Communities Method, one day at a time. I'll see you all guys soon. Peace.